In a time when the world was ruled by emperors and empires, the Mongol army stood unrivaled. They conquered vast lands across Asia and Europe, bringing nations to their knees. But in 1288, they met an unexpected force, not a mighty army, not a great fortress, but a river. The Bach Đằng River in Viet became the graveyard of their ambition. It was a battlefield unlike any other, where nature, wisdom, and the will of the people united to create a victory that stunned the world. Behind it all stood a
Trần Hưng Đạo, born Trần Quoc Tuan, was destined for greatness not by birthright, but by the strength of his vision. Though a prince by blood, he chose service over throne. He studied warfare deeply, not just to fight, but to understand how to win hearts and minds. He trained his soldiers in discipline and character. His calm face masked a sharp and fearless mind. People trusted him not just as a commander, but as a protector of their land and culture. His greatness came.
Kublai Khan, ruler of the Mongol Empire, had already failed twice to conquer Viet. Humiliated but undeterred, he launched a massive third invasion in 1287. This time, he sent over 300,000 troops, infantry, cavalry, and a massive naval force. At its head were the most trusted and ruthless generals, Tuat Hone, his own son, Wai Mani, a naval expert, and Phan Thiep, a veteran warlord. They believed that the Vietnamese would fall quickly. They expected surrender. But they were walking into a careful... Rather than defend the capital directly, Trần Hưng Đạo made a daring choice to abandon it. He evacuated Thng Long, burned supplies, and left nothing of value for the enemy. When the Mongols arrived, expecting resistance, they found silence. Empty streets, deserted homes, ashes where granaries once stood. It was the invaders, confused and restless, thought they had won, but in truth, they were being drawn deeper into unfamiliar territory, farther from safety and closer to the moment when the tide would turn against them. While the Mongols occupied the capital, expecting fresh supplies, disaster struck. General Trần Hưng Đạo, stationed at the Van Don Sea route, launched a surprise attack on their logistics fleet. The night sky lit with fire as food ships sank beneath the waves. With no rations and no way to resupply, the Mongol army began to crumble. Soldiers argued. Morale collapsed. Many became ill or deserted. Starvation, not swords, began to do what the Vietnamese army had planned all along: weaken the enemy from the inside out. Knowing the time had come, Trần Hưng Đạo made his move. He selected the Bach River narrow, winding, and with dangerous tidal patterns as the place for a final stand. For weeks, villagers and soldiers worked in secret, planting massive wooden stakes with iron tips deep into the riverbed. At high tide, the stakes vanished beneath the water. At low tide, they would impale any passing ship. It was a brilliant use of terrain, weather, and timing. It wasn't brute force that would win this war, it was strategy, patience, and perfect execution. On a misty morning, Viet's fleet feigned retreat. Their small boats turned and fled, luring the Mongols into the river's death trap. Wai Mani, eager for glory, ordered a full pursuit. As they advanced, the tide dropped. Hidden stakes tore through their hulls, ships sank, chaos spread. Warriors screamed in terror, trapped between nature and death. The once feared fleet of the Mongol Empire was reduced to splinters and screams. Not by strength, but by cunning, the Vietnamese shattered their naval might in a single, masterful stroke. As the enemy floundered, Trần Hưng Đạo gave the signal. From the riverbanks, horns sounded and war drums roared. Thousands of Vietnamese troops surged forward. Arrows darkened the sky. Boats set ablaze, crashed into Mongol vessels. Sat that killed the invaders. Echoed like thunder. The river, once calm, turned red. Phan Thiep was struck down in battle. Wai Mani was captured. What had begun as a confident invasion turned into a massacre. As news of the defeat reached Tho Hone, panic took over. He fled, abandoning his soldiers. Terrified of ambush, he hid inside a bronze cylinder, carried by his guards as they crept through forests back to China. This was no heroic retreat. It was humiliation wrapped in desperation. The prince of the greatest empire on earth had been outwitted by a smaller, poorer nation. The Mongol dream of conquering Viet was... When the smoke cleared, the river returned to silence. The wooden stakes stood like ancient guardians, half submerged but unforgotten. On the banks, Trần Hưng Đạo looked over the water. Knowing this was more than a victory, it was a declaration to the world. A nation's spirit cannot be drowned. The people sang, wept, and celebrated not just for survival, but for honor. Generations later, Bach Đằng remains a name etched in every Vietnamese heart, a symbol that when a people unite, even the greatest empire can fall.